So what is next? Pacific Northwest Kaiser bringing you guys another update on the Stormfist Krillin profile, one of my favorite blue leaders in the game. If you guys don't know what he does, I've been over it quite a few times, but I'll read it one more time. His auto is when this card attacks a leader card, you may choose one card from your life and add it to your hand. And if you do, you draw one card. So it self-awakens, and then when he awakens, when your life is at 4 or less, choose up to one of your energy and switch it to active mode. On his awakened side, he has his auto, 2 autos. When this card attacks, you draw 1 card. And his other auto, at the end of the turn, you draw 1 card. Activate main, once per turn, choose 1 card in your hand, place it in a drop area, and this card gets 5,000 attack power plus critical for the duration of the turn. So we're changing the deck a little bit. We're going to be focusing on a little bit of the multicolored red-blue. We usually focus on the mono blue for Krillin, but to make it competitive, you just need to do so much. It's always an uphill battle, but this deck gives you a little bit more versatility, and that's going to be utilizing a few more of the unison cards that I showed you earlier in the other deck profiles, and also utilizing the the series 11 booster box that came out, a few cards from there as well. So going right into it, we're going to be rocking with 3 new unisons. The baby unknown parasite unison, we're running 3 of these guys. And if you don't know what it does, it has an activate main, draw 1 card, and that gains you 2 markers on this card. And then the big effect, or big skill we're really going to be utilizing is when you minus 5 markers, you activate main. If your leader card is a mono blue, which ours is, you choose up to one of your leader cards and it gets 15,000 power and double strike for the turn. Until the start of your next turn, you can activate mono blue cards with counter skills from your hand by choosing 2 other cards in your hand and discarding them instead of paying their injury cost. So that allows us to play any other counter skill we have. We play Dimension Magics, we play our counter plays, anything like that. We'll be able to use them just by ditching 2 cards from our hand. And that might seem like a hefty cost, but since Krillin draws so much, that's not really that big of a deal. And then when you add that double strike plus 15k on his awakened side, Krillin was going to be 30k double strike, and if he uses activate main, he's only getting critical, so he's going to be a base 35k critical double strike. And then you can also negate any counter skills. We'll get into that later, but that's a pretty powerful leader card right there. And then we're also still playing with Zeno Cosmic Unison. We already know what he does. This is just to give some ramp so we can get off our Omni and things like that. And just in case the board is just overwhelming, we can use this -5 marker, activate main skill, choose all cards in all the battle areas, ignoring barrier, and shuffle them into their owner's decks. So we're still playing Dark Power and Mass Sane as well. Getting right into it. This is just pretty much a slow down, like the spamming plays, V-Jinx, the Brawly swap a little bit. It doesn't hurt the swap mechanic, but it does stop them from bringing out cards like Ba and things like that. So just extending their plays, just kind of shut them down early. That way they still take 2 cards from their hand, and then we kind of proceed from there. And then we're also still playing our 2 more negates. We have 6 negates in total. Technically, we have 7 negates in total, but we'll get into that in just a second. Master Roshi Universe 7. I really like him just because he's just a mono blue card, and he stops negates and he plays himself. It's kind of self-explanatory right there. I'll tell you why we like to use these guys as well. And then we have 4 Dimension Magics, and this guy is a lifesaver, obviously. With the new cards coming out in the draft box, he's going to take a hit a little bit, just because they can basically stop you from untapping again. But it's not going to be that big of a deal because as long as it's still in regular negate, it has options. So then in this deck, we're going to be running 2 East Kais, keeping watch. When you play this card, you draw 1 card. And during your turn, when your opponent plays a battle card, your opponent chooses 1 card in their hand and places it at the bottom of their deck. So the reason why we're doing this is for a rival. We're playing a rival ourselves, so we know how, or at least in this deck, we know how good it can be, as well as if they're playing Master Roshi or something. If they play the Master Roshi against us, this Master Roshi right here, then they have to -1 card in their hand as well, put it back to the bottom of the deck. So it doesn't go to the drop, it goes to the bottom of their deck, which really helps us out. Anything like that, if they want to just like play cards on like the baby deck that's going around right now, the counter plays, this kind of stops it a little bit just by negging its hand. So that if they want to just negate it, just to kind of put more bodies on the board and things like that, well, they're going to have to -1 card at least. And this is for each card that's played. It's not once per turn. Every time they play a card in your turn, they have to do that. So then we have Force into Being, the obvious, just because we're running blue. We're going to be having the four. This is a different super combo we usually run. We usually run the super combo that draws, the new one that's coming out or that came out. That we put one card on the bottom of our deck and then we draw two cards. But right now we kind of want to get our Krillin does awaken pretty early, so that's it's useful. But since we kind of want to put a little bit more pressure on opponent, we're gonna be running the Bear's Divine Obliterator. So it's a super combo, multicolored super combo, and if the leader card is red or blue, and it's your opponent's turn, when you combo with this card from your hand, choose up to one red blue multicolored energy and switch to active mode. So it gives you that 10k combo, and it's for 0, so it allows us to do our rival plays as well. So for our energy, just an energy placement, we have our Mecha Frieza Energy Bright. This is just to give us that multicolored energy, but if you wanted to play it, I hardly ever do. When this card attacks, choose up to one of your opponent's leader cards or battle cards. It gets minus 5,000 power for the duration of turn. So, but this is what we just want to put into our energy. Then we're gonna have obviously our 3 Great Apes, one of the most expensive cards in the deck. Just so if we're playing against Hen, Control, and things like that, we can kind of get out of it. We're playing 3 Abanis just to add the pressure if we need it. It's just a really good card in any blue deck, really good staple. We're still playing our 2 Janemba Infernal Intruders just because it adds that pressure. Like I said, turn 3, you can really get off, especially you get that Zeno turn 2 play, and then we charge it, or we use this activate main to add energy, or add a top card to our energy, and then we can play Infernal Intruder on turn 2, so that's pretty good. Then for our new card, we're adding in Baby Golden Avenger. We're running 3 of these guys. So he is a unique, so you can only have one in the battle area at one time, but he has triple strike. Then he also has 2 counter skills. He has counter play this card, and then if the battle card being played has an energy cost of 7 or less, it's returned to the owner hand instead of being played. So it just shuts it down right there, but it does cost 5 blue. So, but it also has another counter, negate the counter skill and play this card. So it negates any kind of counter skill as well. And then it has an auto when this card is played, draw 1 card, then choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, ignore and bury, and place it at the bottom of its deck. So now it also has board removal. And with the 30k power and triple strike, it's a really good card right there. Alright, so going into it, we have our last counter skill card. We have our battle card with counter skills. We have SS Trunks God Stealing Technique is a 5 cost, but we usually can play it for free if we have a unison with 2 or more marks on it. So we're still playing with this guy. But then our new addition, we're adding the cooler cards to our deck right here. Rival skill, which is really nice. The red blue, where we don't run any red cards, so we really have to utilize Beerus for this. Our Beerus super combo. That's the only way we can get this guy out without combo another cooler or another Frieza. And its auto is when you play this card, your opponent places the top card of their deck in their drop area, then you choose up to 2 of your opponent's battle cards, ignore and bear it, and they get minus 10,000 power for the duration of your turn. It also has double strike, it's also 20k. So the reason why I start playing a lot of these more minus cards, like of the cooler specifically, is just I run into cards that just kind of just sit there with barrier and things like that. This is how we get rid of them. That just kind of lock us down, like the Borgos and things of that nature. And then also if we're playing against like the Universe 7 decks, they're kind of tough when they get that Vegeta out turn 3. It's kind of really hard to get around that. So our coolers will get around that. Play 2 coolers and it just clears the field. So. And then we're playing Energetic Frieza Kefla. Really, really good card because you can get it out turn 3 if you have the conditions fulfilled. It has a permanent, only 1 copy of this card can be played in your battle area, so it technically has unique, but without the title. Permanent, reduce the energy cost of this card in your hand by 1 for each of your blue battle cards in play. So if we have our East Kai's in play, or our Master Roshi's in play, or anything else other than our unison cards, like our cooler or things like that, then we'll be able to play this guy for a lot less. There's activate main, once per turn, draw 2 cards, so it nets you 2 cards. Then at the start of your opponent's next turn, so you don't get any of that backlash if they have Borgos and things of that nature. Your opponent start of your opponent's next main phase, choose up to 2 of your blue energy and switch them to active mode. It does have to be mono blue, so it can be the red blue energy as well. Then for the SCR, the secret rare, we got Baby Hatchak Saiyan Destroyer, just because it slows our opponents down, so we don't get overwhelmed too much as well. And then a new addition we had in Fu, Shrouded in Mystery. This card's really good. If the game goes really long, we can play him to try to get that finishing play as well, because he's an overwhelm of 10, so you need 10 cards in your drop. He does cost 6 energy, but when you play this card using overwhelm, your opponent can't activate skills on other cards other than their leader cards until the beginning of your next turn. So it shuts it down for the turn you play this guy, and then it shuts it down for their turn if they survive that turn as well. So they won't be able to do anything using these skills besides their leader skills. This card also has 30k with double strike, so it's a game finisher. So the combos I usually use for this deck, so this is kind of a mid-range deck. You kind of want to just try to survive until turn, well, I mean, you can awaken turn 3 or turn 2, I like to do. And then you want to kind of get the Zeno out turn 2, force that energy or ramp that energy, and then all of a sudden you can technically play like Kefla if you have the battle cards out, or you can go into the Omni play. It just depends on who you're playing against. If you want to play added pressure into your opponent, go right ahead and do the Omni play. What I like to do is set up my opponent for the big attack. So if I have Zeno, I'll play Zeno, get that extra energy, and then I'll play Baby Unknown Parasite right afterwards. And then on turn like 4 or turn 3 or turn 3 or turn 4, instead of playing an Omni play or even a Kefla play, it just really is the versatility I like about this deck. Once you get this guy out, you just activate main, it draws you 1 card, and then you can pretty much just you'll have about 6 to 5 counters on this, or markers on this card, to kind of survive until next turn. If you survive until next turn, if you have that amount of energy, yeah, because like sometimes what I like to do is play it on the Zeno, play this guy on turn 4, that way Zeno will have 5 energy, play this guy with 5 markers on it, remove the 5 markers, and try to go for game, having Baby go an 8 in play, because when you attack and you have the 8, you can negate any counter skill. So this guy will be 35k double strike critical, and really putting your opponent into that space. So just to be clear, you can definitely use multiple Baby Golden Avengers, like the counter skills, so you can negate their skills as many times you want per turn, but you can only play 1. So once you use it, then it goes straight to the drop instead of being played, so you won't get its auto skill. But anyways, this is the update of this deck. It's a little bit more competitive, still pretty pricey, I think. Trying to play competitively, that's just how it's going to be. Unfortunately, it's going to be pretty expensive unless you already have these cards, most of these cards. A lot of the newer cards that came out, it's the Baby Unknown Parasite and the Baby Golden Avenger, and then the Baby Hatchak. And so if you have everything else, then you're pretty much set to play this deck. It's not going to cost you as much. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. If you guys liked the video, go ahead and like the video. If you guys are new, please do subscribe. And if you guys have any other, I don't know, opinions on it, go ahead and comment down below. I typically make Krillin decks because I just really like Krillin. If they did a reboot of Krillin to where he can just attack any card on tap 2, or if its activate main was during battle instead of activate during the main step, then that will be pretty nice too. And I hope to see you guys next time.